Hello, I'm Marlene Pixel III. You might remember me from such Hollywood blockbusters as Oh My God, Movies Fast Forward, Metropolis Reloaded, Enjoy or Run, and Opensim for Dummies. Slim couldn't make it today, so I'm taking his place. Welcome to another Let's Build a Sim tutorial. However, you may notice or question why Slim isn't here. Today's tutorial is taking a different format, and we're going to learn Blender as a pipeline to prepare files for import into more than one platform. Instead of making 3 identical videos with slightly different endings, it was decided by my puppet master or mistress, I guess, that we create one giant tutorial that forks with alternate endings. So today, we're going to learn to use Blender as a pipeline to prepare these here books for import into Opensim, Muvizu, and Iclone. Are you ready? Let's begin. Welcome to a Blender tutorial, another one. This is one of several that is going to have a slightly different format, mainly because I use more than one platform, and I am always teaching something, and I'm often always teaching the same thing to different people in different platforms. So I came up with this idea that I would take advantage of the YouTube annotation system and create a tutorial that forks, because in a lot of cases 99% of the material is the same and only the ending is different. So, well, at least when it comes to Blender stuff. So instead of making 3 or 4 different tutorials that are almost identical, I thought I'd make one tutorial with alternate endings and have a menu at the end, and that will make things a whole lot easier for me. Well, I won't be uploading like 4 versions of the same tutorial. So here we are, here's the first one, and what we're going to be doing is learning Blender a little bit backwards, because a lot of people kind of get confused. In my opinion, the modeling is the most straightforward part. It becomes more complicated when you start worrying about texturing and then materials, and so if you do it all, learn it all at once, it kind of gets jumbled up in your head. So I thought I'd leave the modeling part out because it's probably the most straightforward of all of them. It's just a bunch of different keystrokes and repetitive motions. And then the concepts start to be a problem after you do the model. Anybody can draw a picture, it's what you do with the picture afterwards. So anyhow, we're going to do it that way, and what I thought we would do is there's a lot of free open source or Creative Commons models on the internet, and we'll set them up for use in these platforms instead of making the model. Because, it's, I don't know, for me, there's a lot of people that like to use the 3D warehouse. There's a reason for that, it cuts down on work, but there are equally better models, more optimized models that they can't use because they only know how to optimize, to use things from 3D warehouse and SketchUp, but they don't know how to use models that are nice, that they don't have to do anything to other than fix them to use in a software and in Blender. But it's the same thing, only the pipeline is different, but it's the same thing. So we'll do it this way, and then you'll have more models to choose from. Anyhow, so here we go. The default cube, when I open it up, there's a cube in the center of it, of the model interface default, so you delete it by pressing X, and I should start the screencast key. So you delete it by pressing X. Down in the left corner you'll see my keystrokes. So we're going to import a 3ds file. 3ds and object files are the most common around on the internet, I'm finding. changing the size constraint so you don't have to. So we're going to do 3ds because it seems that that's more common in object files. Object files is second, although I don't know. Anyways, so I got a set of books, nothing particularly earth-shattering, set of books. So I just pressed minus to zoom out, and then you use your mouse buttons to zoom in and out now. So that's what we're doing. I made the textures already. So the first thing we need to do is you look up here and it says dummy group. This is a 3ds thing because it was created in Mac, and to make their center they use a dummy group, but we don't want that dummy group. It's going to complicate matters for us right now, so we're going to get rid of it. So then we press A to select everything, and there's our books ready to worry about. So I'm going to save that now. Save it as books. There we go. So that's part 1. Now we've got our books, we saved them. So this is going to be one of these tutorials where I kind of do a lot of explaining in between doing things. So anyway, the next step is we're going to have to see how many materials this book has. So we find that this book is broken into a bazillion different objects. So it's got one object, there's the green, the cover, this green. The spine is another object, and looks like the binding, I guess, is another one. So book cover, see book cover 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so over on this other window I have UV image editor selected. We see that this has been unwrapped for us. The site I got this from is like a super site. It's really super. The modelers create models, put on materials, and unwrap the different objects. And all you have to do is find textures. That's great, but this particular model, I don't like this because it's like a whole bunch of different objects, and so it's got a whole bunch of materials on it. Book cover 3 and whatever, these are all the same texture, and it's book cover, oops, that's a page. So we're gonna fix this up. And I don't think we're going to have to do too much work on this, because it's only 3 materials in the end, I believe. And I cheated and I looked at this before I downloaded it. I didn't want anything too complicated. So we're going to fix this up so that it will import as one object. In game engines, we can't import a bunch of little different objects. It doesn't work. When you're looking at, like, this is a set of books, that's supposed to be one object. It's not supposed to be separated. So we're going to do our texture onto our materials, and then we're going to join all these objects up and make one giant pile of books. So we've got material 63 is the what is that? The pages. So we click on the material group here. So I clicked on that in object. I switch to edit mode. I'm in material 63. Now I need to assign a photograph to it. So image or map, movie, open. Oh, I'm in the wrong thing there. So I made some textures before we started this. I downloaded it, I looked at it, oh, I need 3 textures, I did this textures. So the first one is the pages. of the book. So that's that. Book pages, there we go. Dum-dum. Now, when I look at this, I see how it's going to match at the top. I guess it's all the lined part. So I did this thinking there was going to be some paper in there, but there's not. So I've got this selected, and I only want to use part of this image. So I selected it there, I've gone into here, and I press all, and I'm going to scale it, S, in the x-axis. G for grab, to move it. And I'm going to scale it down now. I'm going to scale in the y-axis. Scale it up. So we need to do this for all the book pieces. And you see there now it's got binding on it. I just switched to the texture from the material, solid, textured. The white because it doesn't have a texture assigned. Now the next thing we need to do, see this is the mapping. It's not mapped yet. It looks like it's mapped, but if I export it, it's not going to have any information stored. So there we go, book pages. That's object 1. So edit mode, book pages. Got another one, A, scale X. Scale X. Now it does that. You need to flip back. There you go. See it's mapped on. Easy map. Wonderful. Back to object mode. I'm going to do this for all of them. So I'm just going to sit here and do this and not say a whole lot. Okay, so there's all our pages done. Not hard, simple. The hardest part is it's very repetitive because somebody's already unwrapped it for us. This particular model, I picked a well set up model. Now, while we're here, I'm going to point something else out. I'm going to go back into solid mode. Every time I download a model, before I start to play with it, I look up here in the top right on this top bar, and I look at the face count and the vertex count for all the parts. So object mode, this is 62 faces, so this is a low polygon model. We want low polygon models. This one's 6 faces, that's the side of the book, and that's the spine. That's 2 faces. Okay, so while we're doing this, before you start, you want to look at the model and say, okay, is this a complicated model? Is this a big model? Is it whatever? It's just books. You don't want to use a pile of books that someone's made that's 20,000 faces. You want to use one that suits the complexity of the model. This is just a bunch of squares, so it shouldn't be that polygon heavy. If it is, don't use it because your game engine is going to cry if you have a bunch of high polygon models. So if, say, you see a house on this place, a place that you want to download, you download it, you select the parts, and you decide if it's worth doing. So this whole thing here is 420 faces. So that's, to me, a reasonable amount considering what it is. If it's a house and it's got all kind of walls and all kind of crap in it, it's, 20,000, 30,000 faces is good. You have to consider the model. For a small little object like this, anything over 100 faces, you probably don't want to use it. Although you might, 1,000 faces I should say, you probably, anything over 1,000 faces, you probably don't want to use it, although you might, like considering it's 3,000 faces and you're just using one of them, don't worry about it, I mean, it's a nice model and you like it. If it's 30,000 faces and, it's a spoon or a bowl or a doorknob, you want to look for a better model. The person who's doing it doesn't know how to model. So that you have to take that into account. Try and stay under 30,000 faces no matter what you choose. Even when I'm making models, sometimes I overdo it. If I want to make a very organic shape, I have been known to make vertex heavy models. I consider them vertex heavy, 15,000 faces for a food model, but it's got a lot of parts to it, so I don't know, to me that's maybe acceptable. It's a little high end, but some of the shapes are a bit complicated and they look too blocky, so you have to kind of judge. Anyhow, so back to this. Now we're going to do the spines. And what are those? The cover. I guess that's a cover. Yes, it's calling it book cover. Is material 61. So again, new, image or movie, open, book. Find my book cover. I'll use the PNG ones. I normally use TGA ones, but I started with the TGA ones, PNG ones, so we'll do another one. So again, we select the UV map. I'm going to call this here texture 5 is covered. And these ones we did, we're calling them pages. Okay, so we're going back to cover. Go back into texture mode, edit, cover. This looks a little scary, it's not really, we just have to decide whether it's going to, it's on the right axis. Scale X, and we'll find out. That looks right, okay. Now we just want one set of lines, scale Y. Grab it, scale X. There's our book. Now, I didn't spend a lot of time deciding if this was going to match up, but now that I look at this, I'm wondering how my spine is going to work after. But I'm not going to worry about it. I'm sure it will be just awesomely wonderful. Okay. Cover. Mode, with cover, okay, scale Y, oops, scale Y, scale Y,
to be careful not to make it much wider than the texture, because if you do, then it starts repeating. Okay, so we're gonna do our last texture. Image. Open. Oops, excuse me. Open. We're in the wrong menu again. So I made some book spines. I looked at my bookshelf and I have a bunch of Charles Dickens books. So read those spines. So let's take a look at those. Now this is a slightly different technique that we're gonna, well, not really, kinda, sorta. Anyhow, so we're gonna put a different title for each of these spines. So see, if you do it like that, it's a bunch of little spines. So we're gonna yeah, so I don't have enough titles to have all different titles. And this is a little bit more fiddly. So if I use a middle mouse, I can zoom in with this. Okay. Oops. That's what I was worrying about. Scale, right. Match up these lines here. Not too bad at all. There's my book. I guess I can make it. Blurry. Their design is a bit weird, I guess. If I had made it, I would have kind of these sides here, but I guess maybe conceptually it doesn't look right to me, but whatever. Spine. So pick a different title here. Oops. Serial 65. Oh. so we've got all our textures on.
Now, as we noted, I'm trying to simplify materials, and I think that, in this case we're going to use 3 materials. I could do less. I normally would do less. I would have possibly have put the book cover and the page lines on one photo and one texture and the spines on another. Although if you really want to, you could probably squeeze it all on one giant texture. But I'll do 3 because that's enough for us. So I'm going to go to the materials tab again. I'm going to make a brand new texture, and I'm going to call it spine. I'll get out of texture into solid mode. And I'm going to make it red. Now, select it, this material. I'm going to select 62, and I'm going to assign it. Now it's red. What, pray tell, am I doing after all that? We shall see. Now, we've got a bunch of materials in the list. No, they're not showing it now. We're going to be having to use them later. However, now we've got to assign that book to it, book spines to it. No, it just needs to. So we just put all those pieces on one material. Title. Okay. So you say, oh my gosh, what next? Well, now we're going to join them up. Trying to figure out what the best way to do it is. I guess I'll do it. One book object. Join. I'm going to have to try not to. Object. Join. Okay. You see now, this is one object, and there's too many materials here. Okay. Material, that one is the cover. This was the old spine, the old title one. You'll see that it's not actually assigned to anything. So we have to delete it. And this one too. Select. Oops. Select. 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 Wonderful. So far, so good. Oops. Okay. You see that all the 3 parts were done. There. If this works, okay, if this works, select spine, select all those, hide them, and select color. It's a strange way that they did that. And select pages, and hide. So all our vertexes have been dealt with. We now have a set of books. Now we're going to save it. Probably should have saved it before, but I'm going to save it now. So we have 3 materials instead of 20 bazillion materials. So I'm just going to change the name of our object to books. Books. Change the object to the mouse. Materials. And each material has 1 picture. Which, for this case, we're going to work this tutorial. That's where we are with this. Save it. On to the next part.